Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Wow, surely Oulton Park is one of the best racing circuits that the UK can offer. It's set in a former country estate, and Oulton Park's sweeping contours and picturesque settings have ensured it remains one of England's most popular racetracks, almost from its very first laps all the way back in the 1950s. And today it plays host to the SRF Weekend Warrior Series, already on round 8. Welcome then to some more Spec Racer Ford action. My name is Sebastian Boscher-Williams. In the production booth we have Jonathan Grabowski, and alongside me in the commentary booth, well, 1 week ago we had Austin Knight, and today another staple of the Apex Racing TV YouTube channel. I'm delighted to introduce Tim Cox into the commentary booth. And Tim, I know that you were a regular commentator last season for SRF, and well, you have missed such an enthralling season so far. This season it's been utterly enjoyable, and I'm sure you're going to really enjoy your time here at Oulton Park today.
Most certainly, Seb. I've covered this for a fair few seasons now, but you just blink with this league and you miss so much. It's just what I love about this series is big grids, big action. You only get this track officially as official content on this sim and this car, so it's the only way to enjoy it, and we do every single week. You know, you've got the great names in here, like the Panero and necessarily the way that they fight one another. Antonio Rice, who's electric in qualifying, you never know quite what race he's going to have. Murakami, who's dominated Masters for so many seasons. You've got Andres Bertoni, always never bothers qualifying, and then you watch him climb through the field 20, 30 places. I mean, Formula Renault 3.5 officials, the maximum grid you can have is 25, and quite often you see Bertoni climb more places than that grid can hold.
You certainly do, and that's been his staple so far this season as well. And what amazes me, like you said, is the amount of cars that we have on the grid every single week. And you know, we're at a max capacity here at Oulton Park. 40 cars is the maximum that iRacing can support around Oulton Park, and that's the number we have. So our drivers had to be quick to actually get into the session today. So we're going to have 2 races today. The first race was getting into the session, and then, well, I guess as well, Tim, we might as well have a race on the circuit as well. Spin there, I do believe, but from one of the...
Steve Elson, I think that was.
It was Steve Elson, thank you very much. Getting all confused. Elson really struggling to make his way around the shortened circuit that we have today at Oulton Park, and actually now Tim has a little bit of a cone friend on the front end of his car. Oulton really struggling at this stage, he's weaving around trying to dislodge that cone from his car, and it's finally disappeared, but it's going to be such a good...
It might not have, because it can hide within the car. That is actually a possible thing. And when it does that, it completely and utterly destroys the sort of... Well, not that you have to worry too much about these cars, but the aerodynamic grip just falls off a cliff, and you struggle a bit with the mechanical grip too, which is one of the main things you need within this car, is that mechanical grip. And yeah, well, even so, I'm sure I'll be dropping back to the pits anyway and going out again, as we've still got plenty left in qualifying. Said still 7 minutes left on the clock, and now this version of the circuit, the island circuit, wow, I'm surprised that didn't end in a collision with 4 of them, well, having to scatter left, right, centre. That was a bit of a moment. But yes, it's going to... It provides benefits, positives and negatives, this version of the circuit. Obviously, you don't get the, the Britain's chicane, because obviously you're cutting around that. Also, you don't then have the long run out of shell oils either. But what you do now have is this big braking zone, which you wouldn't have with the much longer circuit. I mean, if we could run the Foster circuit here, but I think that would just be complete and a bedlam, be too short for the amount of cars we have in this series. But it's gonna, this circuit, it's tight. It's a stereotypical British national circuit, Seb. Tight, twisty, can be challenging to overtake, but there are some, with this layout, there are some big overtaking opportunities. The one I've just mentioned, of course, turn 1, you can do that in most circuits anyway. But then also into Hislops, the chicane that they're about to run down towards. And then, of course, into the final corner. Well, actually, technically the penultimate corner here, because you have Deer Leap, which is a little kink just on the up the hill towards the start-finish line. Lodge Corner being the, well, most people call it the final corner. That provides another great opportunity. So it's rough with it, and game on, I think, is the best way to describe this one.
Certainly agree with you there, Tim. It's always game on, isn't it, for the Spec Racer Ford series. What I like is this qualifying session is turning into a mini race. We've had spins, thrills, and overtakes happening out on the circuit, as we currently have a look at Greg Hansen, the driver, currently leading in the Spec 2 times, 15th overall. A great qualifying session from him. As you might have noticed on your timing tower, Pinero and Naselli separated Tim by less than 1,000th of a second. We've seen these two just utilize each other's slipstreams. They really work together in qualifying. Pinero out ahead by the slimmest of margins, but surely now, I mean, it always surprises me, Tim, that they don't fall out on the circuit. They're always very disciplined when it comes to giving each other tows, because surely if you are Pinero at the moment, you don't want to be really towing Naselli around, because Naselli is basically on the same time that you are on.
Let's not forget, Seb, these two are teammates, so there is that little element of it, and to be fair, between the pair of them, they've had to utilise one another in past seasons to try and get up on Aero Nom, who's just been so dominant and won so many championships in recent seasons. But with him not being here this season, it's sort of opened up a little bit. Also, Yogmani dropping down into Masters. Well, I say dropping down. It's age-related, and obviously he's progressed as he's more senior now into that category, which has then brought about other issues where it's been Masters has been Chris Murakami class for the last few seasons, and now he's obviously Antonio Rice has really picked up his in-race form. Always electric in qualifying, but never had the best of luck in racing conditions. I remember when he put it on the front row at Daytona about 4 seasons ago now. It was a great qualifying by him, and then just through, well, just lacking a bit of pace in the racing conditions, and then a bit of bad luck, finished well down the field. But he's changed that completely, and this has really come alive. Now you've got those 3 titans of this series battling it out, and well, and then we haven't even got on to Spec 2 yet.
And Spec 2 has been such a fascinating little battle so far this season. You know, you've got your Alan McCain's, your Lesnoys, your Hansons, all been really battling out and challenging the Spec 1 classes as well. Unusually for Yogmani, he finds himself not on the pole for Masters this season, though only 4 thousandths of a second behind Antonio Rees. And actually, they are knocking just about on the door of the top two. Although Pinero and Naselli, the only drivers so far into the 1:30 30s. Qualifying coming to an end, just over 2.5 minutes to go. This is when drivers, Tim, start to push the limits a little bit more. Mistakes start to creep in, and you really can't leave anything on the table, especially with how close this field is at the moment. Any little advantage that you can find will be oh so crucial for when the race gets underway in earnest. McCain, though, locking up through the chicane, through Nickerbrook corner. And Tim, that's not the way that McCain would have wanted to end his qualifying session. And he needs to get that car going as quickly as possible. Thankfully, doesn't get stuck in the gravel trap, but a really difficult qualifying session for McCain.
Yeah, he's roasted himself there like a packet of McCain's oven chips there, and not what he was hoping in the latter stage of the qualifying. But with a short lap, Seb, at 1:30, he can, I think, just about get around again and squeeze in. It will be by the skin of his teeth. One more flying lap, and be interesting to see how he gets on in that one. I mean, by his own standards, well down in the field. He's currently lying down in 30th position.
And that's in the bottom third of the field. Of course, only 40 cars running in today's backwards car there. The 222 of Josh Paletti really struggling. That's the second time we've seen that 222 car facing the wrong way. He was the driver to fall foul of turn 4, the hairpin that we've got in today's layout. So I think Josh Paletti not necessarily enjoying this qualifying session. Will line up 36th on the grid unless the other drivers behind, Vaguely, Bertoni and Vaccaro, all yet to set a qualifying lap time. Chris Murakami crosses the line, does not improve on his time, so he will stay in 6th place overall. He'll not be able to get another lap in today's qualifying session. I do not believe Kurt Nunez as well. He can't find any improvements out on the circuit. In fact, if you look at the bottom of your screen, everybody only really managing to produce yellow sector times. Tim, nobody really improving. The track looks like it's just heated up a little bit too much, and drivers struggling to produce any pace on the circuit.
Definitely have, and not meaningfully high track temperatures here today. 25 degrees Celsius, which is around about in the 80s Fahrenheit, I do believe, off the top of my head, through a fact packet type of maths calculations there. But Dudu Castro, he's a bit of a dark horse, and he's the only driver who's found a bit of place late on, and the only driver to join Pinero and Naselli in the 1:30. He's only just, though, with a 1:30.984, and well, he's done out with qualifying, but checking flags out, and not long left for the drivers to try and get over the line, because it's going to come to a hard shut. Actually, no, apologies, no, we have got a little bit longer, so they will be able to complete the laps, and those that have just started just before the check clock came out will get around in this lap. So still some chances to improve, but as you say, nobody really doing out there. Favini having a bit of a better second half to his lap. He's down in 28th at the moment. I'll keep one eye on him for you, Seb, and see how he gets on across the line. Actually, no, he's coming to the pits, so he's abandoned his lap.
Always the case when you think a driver might just improve, they pull into the pits. These two then, well, almost got the same identical lap times. Pinero allows Naselli to go through. Has Maurizio Naselli, can he produce a sensational final sector to take the pole position away from Marco Pinero? He crosses the line, does improve in the final sector, and that is enough to displace his teammate. And Marco Pinero will have to settle for second, as Maurizio Naselli steals that pole position in the dying, well, not even seconds, sort of milliseconds of qualifying. And you have to say credit there to Marco Pinero there, Tim, because he let Naselli go by. He gave him the perfect run into the final or the penultimate corner, and that allowed his teammate to get the pole.
I mean, wow. He was down every single sector. He's pulled absolutely out of the bag in that final sector. I mean, he was helped with Pinero just, giving him that lovely slipstream all the way down to Lodge Corner, where we're just seeing Antonio Rice having a bit of a rotational moment there. But, I mean, what a final sector it was to pull back at that time and finish up, put it on pole. Take my hats off to you, Maurizio, there. A great final sector.
It's really been a great season for both Naselli and Pinero, swapping pole positions so far in the previous 7 rounds, and It does look like Maurizio Nicelli will add another pole position to his tally. Pinera is out on the circuit, but qualifying is done and dusted. And we await the grid then for round 8 of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warrior Series. And what a race we have in store for you today around Oulton Park. It's going to be such an enthralling race. Maurizio Nicelli will start on pole, joined on the front row by his teammate Marco Pinero. Dudu Castro lines up in third alongside Antonio Rees-Gennett. Rees is your Masters pole sitter. York starts 5th with Chris Murakami in 6th place. Christian Perez starts 7th, Steve Elson in 8th. Felix Samoes 9th with Jason Perry rounding out your top 10. Megan Overstreet starts 11th with Helva in 12th place. 13th, Robert Nash. 14th, Jason Green. And 15th goes to Bobby West. Todd Hansen starts in 16th place overall, but gets the pole in the Spec 2 class. Marcus Burkett starts 17th. Matthew Riga starts 18th. Mira Haratsky starts in 19th place. And Aidan Campbell rounds out your top 20. And incidentally, the first driver to fall behind a second of the pole time. So 19 cars separated by less than a second in qualifying. That just takes us to another level for this race. Kurt Nunes starts 21st, Lesnoy in 22nd place, Anna Bradshaw starts 23rd, Ken Bately starts in 24th, Ian Gibson starts 25th alongside Jim Brewster in 26th place, Tom Gradwell starts 27th, Andrea Favini in 28th place, Paul Jackson 29th, and Alan McCain rounds out your top 30. Joshua Justice starts 31st, Jeff Cantor starts 32nd, Darren Kuhn starts 33rd, Gary Volbott in 34th, Philip Berry in 35th, Josh Perletti in 36th. He had a difficult qualifying session. We'll be hoping the race proves a little bit easier. Gianni Longjin in 37th, and the final driver to set a qualifying lap time, Andreas Petoni, unsurprisingly, did not set a time. Charlie Vaccaro and Aaron Vagley as well. The 3 drivers to not set their times in qualifying. But as the cars move away then behind the pace car, Tim, you know, it's a question that I've asked every single week, and it's also important in these cars. Is this a track that you want to make the moves as quickly as possible? Do you want to try and utilize the first lap, or is it all about waiting a few laps, sort of gaining or gauging the cars around you? How would you play it if you were in the car?
Being a veteran of this series, Seb, you always see the breakaway group. Anywhere up to 8 cars who they just work together. They don't really attack one another. And then it's normally as you're getting post-pit stops that they start attacking one another. But where the true action comes at is the peloton, as our producer Jonathan Grozowski called it. The big group behind, where it's a free-for-all and it's an absolute action fest. But, well, let's see if I'm right.
Pace car pulls in and we get ready to go racing for the 8th time this season. And it's a great start from Maurizio Nicelli. Gets the jump on his teammates side by side between Rees-Gennett and Dudu Castro before they apply the brakes for the first time wide from Rees. And that's allowed Dudu Castro to maintain his 3rd place. Everybody making their way through turn 1 successfully as they head down the hill for the first time into the braking zone of turn 3. Everybody just about making their way. Not too much action to write home about so far in the background. You see York Miney under pressure from Christian Perez as they head up towards the hairpin. The first big braking zone on the circuit, the first real major overtaking opportunity. York Miney sends it to the inside. So too does Steve Elson, pushes Christian Perez right. Perez and Elson side by side as he up towards the Hislop chicane. Still side by side there with Elson on the inside. It's not an easy place to make the move. That tyre barrier is oh so menacing as it's still side by side, and well, Elton will just have to concede to Christian Perez. A great start though from Nicelli and Pinero. You said, oh, spinner on the back, Megan Overstreet off into the wall. And I wonder if that was a little bit contact assisted there, Tim, or simply too much throttle application on the exit of Knickerbrook Corner, but that car looks a little bit damaged.
It does. I think that may well have been an oversteer from Overstreet, that one there, Seb, and well, around she went. Not the start that she would have hoped for, but I mean, I tell you what, they're all pretty much nose to tail to start off with. Let's take a look at the replay. This should give us some answers of exactly what happened. And, oh yeah, caught the grass. Yeah, okay, that's no problem. Right, so there's concrete section, like squares, built into the grass on the exit of Knickerbrook, Seb, which you can get onto and you're fine. But it's quite hard to tell where they end. And if you just step over, then you're onto pure grass, and it invokes oversteer, and around you go, and around she went, and well, now she's all the way down in 37, down 26 places.
Got the start that Megan would have been hoping for. Still a long way to go in this race. Oh, collision there on the entrance to the chicane. Oh, and that's a spinner in the background. I think that's McCain going sideways. Yes, it was Alan McCain falling down the order. Severe damage to the back right of his car. All got a little bit close for comfort heading into turn 4, the chicane. The 933 in the background there. Certainly one car with a lot of damage. That Jim Brewster really carrying a lot of front end damage. And although, Tim, these cars don't necessarily, you know, rely on downforce too much, that damage can really hinder the car's performance, and getting damage so early, you know, less than 3 minutes into the race, can really hamper your race chances. It can make the remainder of the race a real slog.
It can, so it really affects your straight line speed. That's Elson up the inside, but I'm not sure he's going to quite get it done. Against, well, his fellow countryman, Jason Perry. And I tell you what, they're squeezing, and that's Bobby West wanting a piece of the action. Is he going to do the pair of them here, Seb? No, just the one. It's just Elson. He displaces there.
Great awareness by Steve Elson. Realised he couldn't turn in to the apex, but West was certainly going to try and inhibit it as much as possible. Elson, though, gaining through turn 2 up towards the braking zone of the hairpin. The best overtaking opportunity, you have to say, on the circuit. Can he make the move? Elson looks to the inside. It'll be a late send if he tries. Yes, he does. Lock up from Elson, but pushes West wide, and Steve Elson then up in to 10th place, displacing Bobby West.
There's been a big crash in the background. I think it was Aidan Campbell caught up in that one. Marcus Burkett, one of them definitely there. And there's Campbell, and that is, yeah, around the same spot, so I think he was caught in that too.
I think he was. Cars facing left, right and centre on the exit of turn 4. I think we might have another incident. Of course, we saw that, or I saw a similar incident 1 lap ago. So we have a look. I tell you what, Tim, take us through our replay. I think this is the turn 4 incident.
Well, they were all checking up anyway due to the movie we were watching early on, and just across the grass, and then round he went, and that, well, Burkett, just the innocent bystander in all of that. And just really caught out by, I think, you know, pretty sure it was Campbell, wasn't it, initially, the spinning there, just got incredibly wide, trying to get on the power a bit too early as well. Side by side into turn 1, it's all happening, and it's hard to know where to look, to be fair, right now.
Yeah, I do not want to be in our producer's shoes at the moment. Action up and down the field. Perry and Elson still having a battle. Perry to the inside through turn 2. Great move there. That's allowed Bobby Nash to get involved as well as they head up towards turn 4. And in the background, the 89 of West. They're all vying for the same piece of racetrack. Down the inside goes Perry. So does Elson. And Nash just about manages to split the difference so far as we ride on board with Bobby West, starting to get a little bit detached from the battling 3 ahead of him. Behind him, Pelver and Green having their own separate battle into the braking zone, as that's a send there from Pelver down the inside. Bobby West, well, was very confident that Pelver was going to give him or remove his nose from the apex of the chicane, but all while they're sort of scrapping away between West and Pelver, Tim, you know, Perry, Nash and Elson are running up the field, and you know, as long as they don't fight for a few corners or so, they can get that crucial second gap and actually start to run their own race. As this is a battle further up the field, Reesken and Marnie side by side. This is the top 3 in your Masters class, or it was Marnie and Murakami going side by side. York Marnie then up into 2nd place in the Masters class, 5th place overall, but Chris Murakami not wanting to let that place go, really hustling and hassling Marnie through turn 1 as they head up towards turns 2 and 3. Battles, as you quite rightly said, Tim, up and down the field at the moment.
Just having a bit of a look. Oh, Matthias Weig, I think something's happened to him. He's just dropping a few places right now. Well, it could be connections actually, because he's not moving at all. So, and he's not appearing on our screen. So, and likewise, not appearing in the pits either. So, I think, hey, up. Oh,
so that's Reese getting it around. Antonio Reese makes a mistake on the exit of the hairpin and collects another car. Was that Perez involved? Certainly looked like one of our sort of top 10 being involved as they all scrabbling for position down towards turn number 5. Lots of action out on the circuit, and Tim, you've got to feel so badly for Antonio Reese. He was so quick in the opening stages, so quick qualifying, and such an easy mistake to make, but well, he's currently in the pits, and I hazard a guess that you might not be seeing him return to the circuit.
I get that feeling too. He's parked the car. That's it. Game over for Antonio. Such a shame, really. He was having a cracking battle. You know, our top 3, arguably our top 3 Masters drivers, right at the sharp end of the field, battling it out. But I mean, to be fair, we've hardly witnessed them all race long because it's this peloton battle in the midfield, like I predicted, that's all kicking off. And Samals in early. That is a very early stop. This is probably the earliest stop I've seen since we were at Indianapolis, where Aeronom mistakenly headed into the pits on like lap 3 or 4, and everyone else panicked because he was doing it, so copied him. And we'd had the whole field pretty much pitted by lap 5 or 6, which is completely unheard of in this series. Normally they'll string out the field as long as they possibly can, and you have Stevie Ray, series organizer. He's always the first to pit, which is normally around sort of half race distance, 40% race distance where he normally heads in. But yeah, it all flips on its head.
Sorry to cut across you there, Tim. Side-by-side action heading into the hairpin. I think we need to put that little voice clip on repeat, because every lap so far we've seen a little bit of contact heading in to the hairpin. I wonder if Samoes has had to come into the pits as Elson is off the track. See him in the infield section there. You see rejoining damage to that 56 car. Wonder if he's had a little bit of an assistance spinning around. But I do believe, Tim, that Felix Samoes made contact with the spinning Antonio Reese, and that's why he had to come in. This is what happened to Steve Elson side by side with the 97 of Jason Perry. Elson gets forced out wide, simply going to lose the car. Great avoidance in the background from Robert Nash. Great job by the 03 car. Steve Elson, though, another driver, Tim, that was having such a good opening race and really up the top of the field, battling it out, and now has it all fallen away from him.
Hansen into the pits, and then one of our early pitters, Campbell, still stationary, so that's the piece. Parks his car, and he won't take any further part as, well, more scraps into turn 1, Seb. Side-by-side action, wherever you look up and down the field. And this is Ian Gibson just losing a place there. Ken Batley, who just sneakily spotted a gap up the inside, said thank you very much, I'll have that from you. And the progresses up a place in the process.
Burkett was pushing Bately along all down the back straight. It wasn't like spec racer fours, it was more like NASCAR with the whole bump drafting to the inside. It goes the 044 car, that's Megan Overstreet. She's trying to regain some places after that mistake on the opening lap. First up for her is Ian Gibson. Gibson goes wide on the exit of turn 4, and that allows Megan Overstreet to easily make the move. And before they've even arrived at the braking zone, Megan Overstreet streaking away. They apply the brakes. Everybody managed to get it slowed down. What, though, has happened to Mira Haratsky? Haratsky falling down the order at a fairly quick rate of knots. That's the car facing the wrong direction. Heavy front end damage. It looks like, actually, Tim, the front right of that car is disconnected. Fairly evidenced by the fact that he could not get that car to turn left whatsoever.
Well, I get the feeling we're going to see... Oh, is he going to hit the tyre stacks, maybe? That would have created a big amount of damage. No, clips them. Okay, so I'm going to guess that he's going to drop a wheel onto the grass on the outside. And like we saw to Overstreet, yeah, a bit delayed. Managed to hold it initially, but... Oh, it was more of a glancing blow, but just caught it slightly the wrong angle. And maybe the wheel's just, you know, steering to the right, and that's what's caused that front right suspension to break. And that's Araski's race done and dusted. It's coming a bit of a war of attrition out there right now, Seb. We've already had, 2, 4, 6 retirements, although Makara and Vogel did not make the grid, so you can't truly classify them as retirements. So it only makes 4.
still 4 cars out in the first 11 minutes of racing. Certainly it does feel like it's turning into a race of attrition. And these 3 up ahead, we haven't really mentioned them so much in this race so far, but no need to. Currently in the same positions where they started. This is Ken Batley facing backwards, heading in to turn 4. He becomes the next driver to fall foul of the turn 4 hairpin. As we see what happened to Ken Batley. Tim, is it going to be simply just a hit in the grass, under braking, heading in to the hairpin?
Well, let's find out. So they're heading down Lakeside. It's a bit nose to tail, but I think he caught the grass as he hit the brakes, and that's what sent him around. And, well, a bit of a bizarre one. It's not generally somewhere you tend to see incidents happen.
Really?
So like that magnitude anyway, where you hit the inside. Normally, you exit stage left and the barrier's on the outside, as that is Les Noy into the pits now.
So, starting to get a few more pit stops. This is normally when we see our spec Racer 4 drivers head in to the pit, sort of 10 to 12 minutes is when the first of the early stoppers can make their way into the pits with almost a certainty that they'll be able to get to the end of the race. Marcus Burkett follows suit and heads into the pit lane as we see a battle out on track between Bertoni. He's up 28 places, Tim. I mean, let's just say that again. Bertoni's up 28 places in this race. We've only been racing for 9 laps or 13 minutes. Bertoni must be the best opening to a Spec Racer 4 Weekend Warrior race that he's had, I mean, at least this season. Supreme driving by Andreas.
That's 3 places per lap, and it's standard, to be fair. I'd love to be surprised by this guy, but I have to cover this so long, it's just become the norm, really. What can you say about the guy? He's an absolute machine, and always fascinating to watch him come through the field like this.
I think we need 2 streams. We need our regular broadcast race, and then just Bertoni. Just let's put him on Bertoni watch and just watch him make the moves. Must be so fun on board his Spec Racer Ford. Another driver who's had a really good recovery is Megan Overstreet. She currently sits in 18th place, right behind Jim Brewster in 17th. Looking to the inside, heading into the penultimate corner. Late send by Overstreet, gets it nicely tucked into the apex and makes her way up into 17th place. 3 seconds separates her from Alan McCain, but Megan's had so much pace, Tim, that it's not too far out of the realm of possibility.
She has, Seb. I mean, let's not forget, after that incident on the opening lap, fell literally to the back of the field. To recover up to 17th is a great drive, but, well, it just shows what can be achieved. And sometimes, you know, when you're just driving for fun, you know, you've lost the place, you know that you're not going to finish where you probably intended, or battle the people intended. Sometimes you end up driving a bit better, where you're just a bit more carefree, and you don't, you know, you're not as intense, not as, you know, sort of tensed up behind the wheel, and you're not making mistakes, and you end up driving quicker, weirdly. And she's definitely displaying that right now, and someone definitely having a lot of fun out there. As our top 3, well, I mean, as you said, Seb, they haven't really seen too much of them because they've just been pretty quiet. Having said that, 7 attempts covers the 3 of them. It's standard weekend warrior stuff. And they've got a big old gap into Marnie, who hasn't been able to come along for a ride. You just might have caught him in the background there. He certainly will do as they come across the start-finish line. And last time around, Marnie, he's matching their lap times, which is good. Actually, no, I apologise. He was a 10th quicker last time around. It's just updated my end. But at a 10th, he's got 2.3 seconds gap between himself and Castro right now. And it's going to take a long old time, and he's not going to close up onto the back of them. The only way you can hope to do that is try and get a jump on them and somewhere around the pit stops. But that's not too far away, actually. We're nearly at half race distance, and also they're not going to be far off reaching the tail end of the field as well, Seb. They're roughly about a 1/5 of a lap behind. The leaders are behind the tail end, so that's going to really start to play a part when they've got to try and deal with that traffic.
It certainly will. You're right to point out, Tim, we're getting close to the pit stop time already. This Oulton Park race is absolutely flying by, and that could bring in a fairly standard strategic element into the SRF Weekend Warrior Series. with Marco Pinera and Dudu Castro being able to do a little bit more fuel saving behind Maurizio Naselli. Naselli has not had that luxury, he hasn't been in the slipstream, and I wonder, will we see a little bit of an overcut for second and third? This though is a battle between West and Robert Nash heading through, towards the penultimate corner through Druids up towards Lodge. And we see West gaining ever closer to that 160 car in the background of Jason Green, just watching this battle unfolding, knowing that if these two continue to fight, if they start squabbling or start getting a little bit close for contact, then Green can just make his way past. Through turn one we go. Nash taking a little bit more of a tighter line. Does that give him the better exit out? Actually, you have to say that West is just a little bit quicker. Green catching the grass on the entrance. Oh, he's off the circuit. Green heading in a one-way ticket towards the barrier. Has he been able to keep it out of the wall? Yes, he has. I take it back. Clearly bought a return ticket, but is losing places hand over fist. But Tony now inherits that 9th place. Green will return onto the circuit in 10th, but Elton coming at full racing pace. Elton's going to have to go around the outside. That will become the inside line. He gets to switch back. A better exit though for Green, and Green's managed to hold on, but that was an incident, Tim, that started also early on the entrance to turn number 3, but huge consequences for Green.
Yes, he came down the cascade, so he's already missed his braking line. Well, here we go, we're riding on board with him. Let's find out. Just didn't get the turn in, and yeah, I think maybe just left it a bit too late. Luckily, there's a big, large open space there. It is very bumpy, but if he wants a rallycross track in a British circuit, he needs to head to Brands Hatch, opposite end of the country. But of damage averted, but however, might not be damage and limitation, because that's Elson squeezing his way past Jason Green, and Elson, well, he's on a bit of a recovery himself after dropping those few places. And that's back up inside the top 10 for him. Now, we're not too far away from starting to see a few more people head into the pits. So currently about a quarter of the field have already pitted. Well, a lot of those is for damage. Of course, the drivers do have one fast repair to their name to utilise, but it's when you choose to take it. Right now, I've seen a few bruised and battered cars out there. One of them being Kurt Nunes, who's got a few scrapes and bumps on the front end of his machine.
Yeah, that car looking very bad to the 918. I'm sure he'll be utilising his fast repair when he heads into the pits. Nunes has a little bit of a look on the inside, heading into the exit then of turn 4. But in the background, Andrea Favini getting a little bit interested in this battle. Of course, this is not for class place. Favini and Nunes in different classes. One Masters lock up low from Bradshaw. Oh, Bradshaw into the wall. And he's found the most inconveniently placed tyre barrier if you are trying to make your way across the grass. And now he's going to have to wait. He's on the apex of the corner. Full lock in. Can he get that car turned around? Has he got any damage to the front end of his car as he makes his way onto the circuit? I have to say, had great awareness there from Bradshaw just to wait and not cause a secondary accident, which is so easy to do, especially when you can be a little bit frustrated with yourself. And Tim, we have a ride on board with Adam Bradshaw. Talk us through it.
So, I think he just outbrakes himself a little bit here, Seb. Carries that, but yeah, bit too much speed. Had to open up the steering there, Seb. Otherwise, he was going to lose the rear end of the car, and in doing so, just had that. Well, in the end, was a bit of a tap with that tyre stack that's on the inside of the second part of his lops. And I feel like he got away with one, but this is the trouble with these big grid races that we experience week in, week out in this series, that you have to sit there and you have to wait for what feels like an eternity to be able to turn around again, as I think something's happened to our man, Andreas Paterni, because he's dropped a couple of places and he's now only in 9th at 29 places. Only.
I think, yeah, Paterni's had an issue. So too is Steve Elson out on the circuit. Elson now showing on our timing software in 30th place. So I wonder if the 56 car has had a little bit of an issue. In fact, looks like he is out of the race, so maybe another connection issue, I wonder. This, though, is your battle for the race lead, and it's very much the same old song and dance. Naselli in the lead, Pinero second, Dudu Castro in third, separated by less than a second the top three. Yorkmani slowly starting to catch on this top three, on this little gaggle at the front of the pack, although not enough really to start to worry Castro or Pinero, so they're just lapping, doing their own thing. But, you know, Tim, say if you were Dudu Castro at the moment, you were running in third, would you roll the dice? Would you come into the pits early? Would you just sort of, you know, try and get the undercut, come out in clean air and just absolutely thrash it around the circuit? Or is it all just about, you know, doing what the two ahead of you are doing, just to almost give you the best shot of being able to stay within touching distance of the race win?
Seb, any other series, I would say yes to the former. But in this series, no, because he's going to come out in traffic wherever he does. He's better staying off with these guys because he's matched on pace. And also, they're currently towing each other around. Also, he's able to fuel safe where he's remained right on the bumper of Pinero for, well, the last 15 laps, 22.5 minutes. It's going to help with his fuel saving. And that means he's going to, when he does pit, he can either maybe go a lap longer or he can come in at the same time and take less fuel on. It's win-win for Dudu Castro, potentially. But the entrance into the pit lane here is a little bit tricky, Seb. And it depends where your pit box is as well, because if you're right at the start of the pit lane, well, you basically have to bring the car pretty much to a halt and make a 90-degree turn right, otherwise you miss your pit box. So hopefully for Castro, he's got one a bit further down. But if he can get right onto the pit limiter as late as possible, try and make that bit of a jump, he will make some progress. It's going to be fascinating to see how those three sort themselves out come the end of the race and after the round of pit stops, most certainly.
Certainly will be. Another driver who's had an incredible race, it's got to be Megan Overstreet. Made her way past Alan McCain fairly easily a few laps ago and finds herself on the tail of Andrea Favini and Kurt Nunez. That's the battle that's been hotting up. Megan Overstreet gets a great run through turn one, and by the time they've headed towards Cascades Corner, makes her way past Favini. Favini tried to send it to the inside but couldn't do anything about it. Megan Overstreet simply had more speed around the outside. The 222 car of Josh Paletti neatly gets out of the way. Four cars racing on the same piece of tarmac. Up ahead of Megan Overstreet is Kurt Nunez, and Megan is not knocking on the door of the top 10. Naturally, it's not too far behind the other, you know, big gainer in this race, Andrea Bertoni. So these two could have a little bit of a battle towards the end of the race, and I, for one, Tim, will be certainly up for that. That will be a great battle out on the circuit.
Skinner in the background.
Who was that? Was that Hanson going off the... So it was Josh Pallett. Ah, poor Josh Pallett had a difficult qualifying session, and unfortunately for him, the race not necessarily going any easier, and Josh Pallett will have to try and recover his race once again. This battle remains very fierce. Robert Nash and Bobby West. Nash just about edging out Bobby West, but Bobby West really gaining on the back straight towards the braking zone of turn one. Once again, Tim, we've got to that phase of the race where there are battles up and down the field. You don't quite know where to look, and that's very much standard spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors things.
It is. I mean, you say stage of the race, Seb. It never seems to end in this championship, and right now, yeah, Nash might be ahead of West, but West he's a wily old fox. He's a veteran in this series. He's been there, seen it, got the t-shirt numerous times over, and he won't be fazed by this whatsoever. It'll pick him off, I'm sure, but needs to be a little bit careful, and he could potentially use him, because look who's looming large right behind them. It's everybody's favourite Uruguayan in this series, Andreas Bertoni, and, well, we're right on board with that number 11 right now. Up an incredible 30 places, as you do. Oh, Overstreet's managed to make it past Nunez. She's now back to where she started. I mean, it was fascinating watching her earlier, Seb. She was the perennial hot knife through butter, the way she was siving through those drives. Oh, Pinero's into the pits.
So the man that was running in second place for most of this race decides that this is the time to head into the pits. Fairly surprising that it was Pinheiro pulling the pin first. He was behind and has been behind Naselli for the opening 18 laps of this race. You would have thought he would have had a little bit more of an ability to do a little bit of fuel saving, but clearly not. Pinheiro into the pits, will come out in 8th place or so. This is the overtake, Megan Overstreet on Kurt Nunes. Kurt Nunes sends it heavily into Druid's corner. Megan Overstreet just takes it easy and knows that she'll get the better exit, and will get the move done onto the brakes down towards Lodge corner. Great move by Megan Overstreet. Oh, too wide there in the background. Thought for just a split second that we might see some 3 wide action into Lodge corner, but thankfully drivers decided against that. What would have probably turned into a little bit of a scuffle out on the circuit. I'll tell you what as well, Tim, I was going to say, but Tony so close on the circuit, trying to make his way down the inside of Bobby Nash, but Tony really making up positions. He's got that inside line for Dickerbrook corner and gets the move done. So Bertoni starts to strike, starts to engage hammer time, and he's up into 6th place. But Castro has lost that draft from the car ahead of him because Naselli's just too far ahead. Surely Juju Castro, Tim, has got to come into the pits fairly soon because he's just not able to really keep up with Naselli.
No, he hasn't, because look, Naselli's just come into the pits, and well, I said full well about Bobby West, and there you go, just shows it. Wasn't first, made his way past them. Bertoni follows him through, as I think this is going to be West into the pits. Yes, Nash follows him in. Bertoni keeps going. Although for Bertoni, I think he might be quite happy with that one. He's going to be held up by these two and heads off into this. It's now question, where is Naselli? Oh, now he's dropped a place because he was in front of Green. Oh, sorry, I'm on about hold on, I've got Pinheiro's got the big jump on Naselli. Look at that.
Pinheiro has a big gain there for Marco Pinheiro. Naselli stationary for almost 2 seconds longer than Maurizio Naselli. And Tim, you know as well as anybody that 2 seconds was stationary in these cars is a really long time. That's a lot of extra fuel that Naselli feels that he needs to get to the end of this race. And surely the obvious question to pose is, has Pinheiro underfueled, or has Naselli gone a little bit too conservative? This race has just taken on a whole new dimension.
Well, let's not forget, Pinheiro was sat in slipstream Naselli for, well, up until he came into pits. So he would have fuel saved quite a bit. Now, yes, his stop is, well, around about 2 seconds slower than A, Naselli's, and B, pretty much the rest of the field, as Castro's in from the lead. So is Marnie coming in too, as Marnie, he's really closed up on Castro in this in-lap. So Murakami, he's coming in too. Now, where are Pinheiro and Naselli? I think they're going to get a jump on Castro here, Seb. This is going to be, I think, convincing. Well, Castro's on pit exit here. This could be tight. There you go. You can just see him there. But I think he's going to have to slide behind these guys. But only just. Oh, he might even get one of them.
Castro's going to come out side by side, or almost side by side, with Naselli. So Pinheiro making his way through, and crucial for Castro to stay ahead of the lapped car of Miro Horatsky. That really allows him not to complicate his race, but he goes wide through Cascade Corner, turn 3, and almost loses the place to Miro Horatsky. That's not for position, but it's certainly a crucial move for Castro to keep ahead of the car behind him. And I can now introduce my favourite stat. Andreas Bertoni has run in every single position so far today. He has started in last spot and currently runs in first, albeit Tim hasn't made his way into the pit lane. And he can join some fairly illustrious drivers. I think the last driver I can think about to do that in any motorsport was Jenson Button in 2011 at the Canadian Grand Prix, and Bertoni certainly carrying those vibes. I mean, he's just relentlessly quick and just, I mean, how could he be that quick, make that many overtakes, and still fuel save? It's just incredible.
It's another average day in the SRF Weekend Warriors. I think that's the only way to sum this championship up, to be fair. Like you say, yeah, stop. Likewise, Jason Green, who is separating Pinheiro and Naselli. There's Bertoni into the pits. Green yet to pit, so yeah, there you go. He's headed to pit road right now. Also, Favini yet to pit, and Yanni Longen, the only other drivers yet to pit so far. Let's see those two come in on this lap. But when Castro came into the pits, obviously, lap prior when Selly came in even. I'll get my names right in a minute. When Selly came into the pits, he was 1.3 seconds ahead of Dudu Castro. When they came out, the gap was only 6 tenths, but it has opened up once more. It's now 2.2 seconds, so you can physically seen that gap, and Selly is caught. He's got right up onto the back of Panero. So many rows at the end of their names. So they've got Panero and Castro just tripping me up right now, but. Yeah, caught right up again, and they're back to where they are, but although positions swapped around, and like you say, it's going to be interesting. Panero stopped for 10.5 seconds, shortest of absolutely anyone. Castro, who went longer, was stationary for 11.6, so a whole second longer pretty much. And has he got enough fuel on board? And now he's got to plough his own furrow, and the Selly behind him, he doesn't need to worry about fuel. This is going to be interesting as well. There you go. What do I know?
Selly to the inside, heading into Lodge Corner, and Marco Panero will have to settle for second place once again. And it just seems that Panero is having to fuel save. Didn't really fight his teammate too much into the penultimate corner, and it just seems, doesn't it, Tim, that Panero has either taken a little bit too little fuel at the pit stop, or he's decided that he wants to do a little bit more fuel saving in this final stint. Castro starting to fall away from that battle for first place, and York Miney really gaining. We know how quick York Miney can be. He's been relentlessly quick this season, and currently in the lead of the Masters class once again. Will we see him get on to the overall podium? I wonder. Further down the field, Pelver and Megan Overstreet. Megan Overstreet now actually gaining a position from where she started after facing backwards on the opening lap, although Pelver trying to dissuade Overstreet from getting 10th place, tries to send it to the inside through turn 1. Nothing though can be done through to Cascades, turn 3. Alice Pelver on the inside getting the better run. Will now have the slipstream, will now have the speed benefit heading up towards turn 4. Does Pelver think about sending it to the inside? Megan just closes the door. Pelver gaining though through the braking phase. And let's not count out Alan McCain, who, you know, Tim, another driver that has had a fairly difficult race. He was, you know, he's up 18 places from where he started 30th place overall. Currently finds himself in 12th place and second in Spec 2. Just seems that some drivers are really loving the circuit and really are able to make the overtakes when some other drivers, you know, like Castro, like Panero, were struggling to make the move. Just really different driving styles coming to the fore so far today.
McCain was teammates with Aero Nom, who's obviously, we know, you know, regular viewers of this series will know, has been so dominant over the last few seasons and held the title for the largest amount of championship wins. Well, when I first joined this series, he was on 3 and had Gaspers on 5. He's now overtaken him, and I believe he's on 7 now. It's been a frightening run of form. He's absolutely dominated it. Obviously, we don't have him this season, so he's sort of checked. He's held the title, and that's it. He's done. He's checked out of it. But I mean, for Overstreet, it's been interesting. It's almost like she's in an LMP1, Seb, and she's alongside, you know, a relevant car. They've run out of boost, and she's pressing the boost button because the way that it's all coming down to the lines that she's picking through the corners that's giving us this massive overspeed on corner exit, and she's eating up for breakfast any car that's in front of her right now. Having said that, Clever in the 46 has managed to get back in front of her, but you know for a while this battle isn't done and dusted, and also don't discredit that 2-1-2 of Alan McCain right behind, because he'll be there and he'll be joining in the fight as let's look at the fights. Castro and Marnie. Oh, this is Marnie going up the inside, Seb.
York Miney moves in to third spot with a great move into Lodge Corner. Juju Castro powerless to defend against it. Up ahead you see Panero and Naselli separated by less than 0.2 of a second. Position swapping then in the top 4 fairly readily. And Juju Castro, what has happened to him post pit stop? I wonder if he's had a little bit of a short stop as well, and having to do a little bit of fuel saving out on the circuit, because York Miney really capitalising on Castro's pace, and Yorkmani is absolutely on it at the moment. So quick through turn 3, up towards the hairpin we go. Yorkmani's got a little bit of an outside shot at maybe getting the race win. Lock up there from Phil Berry, trying to get out of the way. Castro though to the inside. What has happened to Yorkmani? Because he's lost the position. Dudu Castro is up into third, and Mani now losing 1-2 seconds to Dudu Castro. And I wonder, Tim, what just happened to Yorkmani?
Is he locked up? Oh, did he get scared? Oh, he's lost the rear. Oh no, it's all gone wrong for Yorkmani, and that's gutting after he's just put in the fastest lap of the race last time around. So first driver into racing conditions gets to 1:30s. 1:30.88 to be precise. And also the round of pit stops, he's, you know, of this top group, you know, he stopped on lap 19, which is the longest of all of them, and he was also stationary for the longest out of all of them. So he's definitely got fuel to burn, but with even that pace, it's almost like he's running on light fuel. It's a bizarre one right now, but so unlucky, losing the rear. I mean, he's still got a chance to catch up onto Castro. He's only 1.3 seconds behind, and he can make that because the field is coming round to, you know, they're really catching up with a lot of back markers at this stage of the race, Seb, and they're going to play their little part in the story. I mean, Hammond said they're in, you know, our leaders now are in a bit of a gap, a bit of a window of fresh air. You can see the next car on the road. I think that's Jason Perry, who's just coming around the corner, heading into the corner there as they came out through Cascades onto Lakeside. So they've got a decent window, and we've only got, what, 2 minutes left in this race. There's only about 2 more laps left to go. They could go all the way to the finish potentially and not have to encounter any traffic.
Music to Naselli's ears. You could hear a collective sigh of relief when Yorkmani made that mistake from our leading two. Mani had so much pace, you know, setting the fastest laps of the race. As you mentioned, Tim, the first man into the 1:30s in racing conditions, and this battle continues on for 10th. Plover just ahead of Megan Overstreet, and Alan McCain in as well. Through the hairpin we go. Oh, a little bit sideways on the exit full Pelver. That might give Overstreet a little bit of an opportunity heading up towards Hislop's chicane in the slipstream. It's a difficult place to overtake. Can be done though. You just need to be just a little bit brave. But Megan Overstreet decides against the move and just will like to set Plover up towards the end of the lap. White flag is in the air. 1 racing lap to go. Naselli and Pinero, who will get another race win of the season. Naselli currently leads the race, with Pinero so close behind him, and Dudu Castro as well, lapping a little bit quicker than the top two, who was 2/10 quicker on that last lap. But these two could start to hold each other up as they head up towards turn 4 for the final time. Maybe, arguably, Pinero's best place to get the move done. Naselli manages, though, to hold on to the race lead as they head down the back straight, hilltop straight, towards hill slopes for the last time. Another great overtaking opportunity for Pinero. Pinero, though, fuel saving. Tim, does that mean that Pinero is a little bit sort of on bingo fuel almost, if you talk about if you go towards more of an aviation phrase? Pinero really struggling for fuel, and that sort of almost nullified the race win. It's all about, can Pinero get to the end of the race?
He'll be fine, Seb. He'll be fine. Are we going to see the lunge? I tell you what, he's getting closer. That's 2 attempts, and he is closing, and a bit of a stutter on the throttle there from Naselli. Hold tight, Seb. Here we go. We're going to see the lunge. I don't think he's going to do it. It looks like he's backing away.
In then to the penultimate corner. Pinero quickly disappears from the circuit, but regains as he heads up towards the line. A little bit of a drag race. Will they manage to make it across the line? Yes, they will. Naselli wins round 8. Marco Pinero in second. Dudu Castro finishes in third. Yorkmani finishes in 4th overall, but gets the win in the Masters class. And then look at the gap between 4th and 5th, between Mani and Murakami. That's some 17 seconds. Those top 4 were in a league of their own all race long. Murakami will finish in 5th, but Tony, a great race by him, covered some 32 places gained, finishes in 6th.
Bobby West finishes in 7th, Jason Green in 8th, and Kuzma Lesnoy in 9th place and gets the Spec 2 race win. Flavor will cross the line in 10th, just ahead of Megan Overstreet, and Alan McCain finishes in 12th. But Tim, that was an absolutely outstanding SRF Weekend Warrior race once again. Always delivers. But it just, I mean, I just love having these pit stops because there's always a fuel-saving element, and it did seem that Pinero short-fueled just a little bit and really paid the price in the final few laps for it.
It seems that way, doesn't it? And, well, it's another average day in Weekend Warriors, really, isn't it? And what can we say? If you're regular to this series, it's nothing new. If you're new to this series, yeah. Oh, I thought that was Yorgmani giving a bit of a push. Pinero down the back straight there, but I think those top two, I think you called it right there, Seb, I think they've run out of fuel.
They were all so close to running out, and you almost would have got the sense that if Pinero didn't have to lift on that final run down towards Lodge Corner, that maybe he could have snuck past Naselli, Naselli snuck past him in qualifying to take the race win. But confirmation then that Maurizio Naselli wins round 8 of the SRF Weekend Warrior Series. 2 tenths separates himself from Marco Pinero in 2nd place. Dudu Castro finishes 3rd and rounds out your podium finishers. Yorgmani, winner in Masters class, finishes 4th overall. Murakami in 5th. Andreas Bertoni finishes 6th. Bobby West in 7th. Jason Green in 8th. Kuzma Lesnoy in 9th, with Alice Plelver in 10th spot. Megan Overstreet finishes 11th. Great race by her. Alan McCain finishes 12th. Kurt Nunez in 13th. Andrea Favini in 14th. Marcus Burkett finishes 15th, with Jim Brewster behind him in 16th place. 17th place goes to Tom Gradwell, and Adam Bradshaw finishes in 18th spot. Jeff Cantor finished in 19th place, with Paul Jackson rounding out your top 20. Ian Gibson finishes in 21st spot, with Darren Kuhn in 22nd. Johnny Longjin, another driver making his way up through the field, finishes in 23rd spot at 14 places. Jason Perry losing 14th place, finishes in 25th place, goes to Ken Batley. Maharatsky finishes in 26th place. Philip Berry in 27th. And then when we get into our retirees from today's race, Josh Poletti finishes 3 laps down. Robert Nash, Todd Hansen, Felix Samoes, Steve Elson, Gary Volbolt, Christian Perez, Aidan Campbell, Antonio Reese, Matthew Weiger, and Joshua Justice all retired from this race, with Charlie Vigaro and Aaron Vaguely not taking the start. And that rounds off your 40-car grid. And wow, we always love having a little bit of a chat to some of our drivers, and we can have a little bit of a chat to our 3rd place finisher, Dudu Castro. Dudu, welcome to the commentary booth. That looked like an enthralling race out on the circuit. You were all so close to getting the race win, but it certainly looked fun out there.
Yeah, it's a tough race. It's always tough to race in this league. Really good drivers. Marco and Mauricio had an amazing pace, and they had a brilliant work together job during the race. I was with them because I was probably with the draft. I tried to save a little bit of fuel, but at the end, the race had 1 lap less. So I've ended with more fuel than I should. So I don't know, I think I missed the right account. So, but it was fun, man, it was fun. Jorg was flying too on the track. I didn't put too much work to avoid Jorg to pass me, because I was hoping that he could catch them. But yeah, at the end, that's what I could do. No more than that. It was great, man. It was great. For me, it was good. I didn't have too much practice in this track. For me, it was a good end.
It certainly looked fun out on the circuit, as I mentioned. Did you think that a race win was on the cards today, or were you aware that Naselli and Pinero were working together? So realistically, 3rd was a good place to set your expectations on. What were you thinking from the cockpit?
Well, I was sure they had a faster pace than I did, and my only chance was doing a better pit stop. If I put the right fuel, I could come back in front of them, and then hassle as much as more to hold the position. That would be my only chance. They were faster than myself, also York too. So third place was deserved for me. It was really good. I'll take that.
I think you certainly will. And we head next week to Indy Road, a track which is going to be dominated by slipstream. Is that a track that you're looking forward to? Do you think you'll equally be able to go well around there?
Well, last Indy race had a good setup for there. I hope it's still working and works for the next week. So I like the track so much. I like the new configuration and everything. So yeah, I'm excited to that. I hope everything goes well.
We wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much, Judy, for coming to talk to us in the commentary booth. Before we let you go and celebrate, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to at all?
Yeah, well, all the races. Congrats again, Mauricio and Marco, Steve that does this league, and of course you guys, the broadcast. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Judy, and once again, congratulations on your third place finish.
Thank you, sir.
As I mentioned there, that was Dudu Castro, who finished third place overall. Tim, have you managed to find any other one of those, or any more of those pesky drivers in the paddock at all?
Of course I have, and managed to come together. Jorg Marni, my favourite Swiss SRF Weekend Warriors driver. Well, Jorg, I mean, that one mistake right towards the end, that's what cost you a chance on the podium overall, really, of what was, I think, seemed like a bit of a challenging and tough race out there.
It was, but good evening, first of all, gentlemen. Nice to hear you again. And yeah, that bloody overbreak, but I got scared of the left car ahead. I knew I could catch Marco and Maurizio. I knew that because I had more pace than there. And I thought, okay, Dudu is let me pause, so we might catch them up and try to fight for all four to the win then. But yeah, mistakes can happen on that hairpin, and that happened to me.
Right, definitely unlucky with that one. I mean, other than that, I mean, fuel saving and the pit stops, you know, out of everyone, you had the longest pit stop out of the, you know, that sort of top 5 or 6 drivers that were all battling out initially. Were you not able to fuel save any, or was it just a bit of play it safe and put a bit of extra fuel in the car? Because everyone else in front of you definitely seemed to be cutting it a bit close to the wind, you know, being a bit of on fine margins with their fuel that they had left in the car.
As I mentioned always, Tim, I'm not fuel saving at all. I want to fight. I want to have fun, and fuel saving is, for me personally, is no fun at all. So no, I did not fuel save at all. I was pushing as hard as I could.
That's what that's the Jorg Marni we love to hear and we all know so fondly. Jorg, before I let you go, anyone you want to give a shout out to at all?
Actually, to all my race colleagues, to my chat box that we are in all the time. All the old backs are in there, myself and the other old ones as well. So we always had a lot of fun. I'm just a bit sad that Chris could not catch up with me. I always tried to tell him on the chat, please come on, get on my back, we're gonna catch them, but he lost track a little bit. But yeah, sadly, but otherwise to you guys, of course, for broadcasting the race all the time. And to everybody I know, actually, it's so fun to drive. Every week it's actually so fun to drive.
You just get it just oozes, and you just get the impression so much that it is a great fun series to drive in, because it's just crazy every single week for season after season, year after year, but it just never fails to deliver, does it? But that's Jorg Marni, your winner in Masters and 4th overall.
Yeah, I actually never watched the standings so far, but you let me know now. I'm 4th. It's
yes,
nice.
you're 4th, yeah, and you're winner in Masters as well. Obviously, since you've made the jump up into that, and yeah, as you mentioned earlier, now you're one of the old men of the series, and well, you're in the old man class now, being in the Masters as well, aren't you? So, yeah, 4th overall. I mean, it's not a bad result, really, is it?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I don't expect anything, actually. I just want to have fun. And where I end up, as long as I have a great race, I don't care where I end up. I just want to have fun.
There you go. That's lovely to hear. We shall let you go. Well, Seb, Fascinating to hear from our drivers as always, and well, it's just another weekend in Weekend Warriors, isn't it? Really.
It certainly is, and once again, the Spec Racer Forward Weekend Warrior Series delivers in earnest. And Tim, I'm going to put you on the spot here. You always do this to me when the roles are reversed. What is your favourite moment there? What will you be taking away from this race and talking about all next week long?
Well, normally it's the battle for the front, but you know, in always you've got, you know, there's always a couple of drivers who have outstanding drives. Obviously, Andreas Paterni at 32 places, Megan Overstreet, massive shout out to her to get full right on the opening lap, to fall right to the back of the field, which was 38 cars, and to get all the way back up to into 11th where she qualified. Could have even been 10th, was an astounding result, but it was that battle over, you know, the best of the rest almost. Bobby West, Jason Green in there, Alan McCain was in there too at one stage or another. It was just enthralling to watch, you know, back, forth, left, right, centre. And it's just what we come to expect from this series.
It certainly is what we've come to expect, but that is us done for round 8. Join us in 1 week's time as the championship returns, as we head across the pond towards Indy Road. We've had some classic races there in the past. We've got the new updated version in iRacing now, so a little bit of a new challenge for our drivers. My name has been Sebastian Boscher Williams. I've been joined in the commentary booth by Tim Cox, and we've had Jonathan Grabowski in the production office. Well, until then, we will say thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in 1 week's time. SRF Weekend Warrior Series returns as we head to the USA.